at his peak. Tom Cruise wasn't just a movie star, he was the definition of one. For decades, he embodied the American ideal of charisma, discipline, and cinematic perfection.
Okay, Tom, we're ready to go.
Stepping out, guys.
This is just another day at work on Mission Impossible.
From Top Gun to Mission Impossible, his name on a poster meant certainty, a guaranteed thrill. A flawless smile, a man who could outrun gravity itself. By the early 2000s, Cruise wasn't merely part of Hollywood, he was its heartbeat. But beneath the glow of that smile, the machinery of control was always running. In 2005, the world saw it slip. On live television, the same man who once charmed millions jumped on Oprah's couch.
Oh, have you ever felt this way before?
Shouted declarations of love.
I love you. You?
And lectured a news anchor about psychiatry.
The mood changes a bit. You're going to see a fiery Tom Cruise talk about his attack on
The footage went viral before viral was even a word. Overnight, America's golden boy became the industry's most puzzling figure, adored, mocked, and feared all at once. Within a year, his longtime studio cut ties. The fall was swift, public, and absolute. 17 years later, the same man would walk into a ballroom full of Hollywood's most powerful names, and the room would rise to its feet. Steven Spielberg, a living legend himself, crossed the floor to embrace him, thanking him for what many believed that he had helped bring the movie theater back from the brink. Top Gun Maverick wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural correction. Proof that audiences still crave the kind of spectacle Cruise was willing to risk his life to deliver. In that moment, the man who once seemed finished was being celebrated as the one who saved it all. Two eras, two faces, one question. How did Tom Cruise, once celebrated as the embodiment of Hollywood perfection, become the man Hollywood itself turned against, and then the one who somehow redeemed it? To understand how far Tom Cruise would eventually fall, we need to rewind to the beginning, before the billion-dollar blockbusters, before the talk shows and the chaos. There was a kid from upstate New York who didn't have much except drive, the confidence, the control. That trademark intensity, none of it came naturally. It was built, brick by brick, out of survival. Long before the camera loved him, life had trained him to perform. Tom Cruise was born Thomas Cruise Mapother IV, the son of a restless electrical engineer and a mother who worked double shifts just to keep the lights on. The family moved constantly, hopping from one small town to another, chasing stability that never lasted. By the time he hit high school, he'd been through more than a dozen schools. But the chaos at home left the deepest mark. Cruise would later describe his father as a merchant of chaos, charming one moment, violent the next. Growing up in that unpredictability, he learned early that control was safety. Every smile, every measured movement that would later define his screen presence started there as a survival skill. When his parents finally divorced, he was 15. He briefly thought about becoming a priest, before discovering something that made more sense than faith performance. Dyslexic, restless, but fiercely focused. He realized acting gave him something life never had: structure. On stage, the rules were clear. The applause meant order. And for the first time, chaos could be rehearsed, shaped, and turned into something powerful. Hollywood didn't make that discipline, it just gave it a stage. Cruise started small, picking up background parts in Endless Love and Taps. Barely making rent, but never blending in, even with 5 seconds of screen time. He had that look, the intensity of someone who wasn't acting to be famous, but to prove he existed. Then came Risky Business 1983. A white shirt, a pair of sunglasses, and a living room dance turned a struggling actor into a national obsession. That slide across the floor became one of the most replayed images of the 80s America's new face of rebellion, youth, and charm. 3 years later, Top Gun 1986 launched him into the stratosphere as Maverick. Cruise wasn't just playing a fighter pilot. He was defining a generation's idea of cool, confident, reckless, and untouchable. The movie dominated the box office, boosted Navy recruitment, and sealed Cruise's status as the man every studio wanted and every audience trusted. From there, he pushed higher. Born on the 4th of July, earned him his first Oscar nomination. Jerry Maguire gave him "Show me the money," one of the most quoted lines in movie history.
You'll lose.
You want it smaller.
Oh, I'm over it. Now I want all my clients, and yours too.
Whatever.
Magnolia proved he could strip all that polish away and still deliver raw, emotional power. By the end of the 90s, Tom Cruise wasn't just Hollywood's biggest star, he was Hollywood itself. The kid who once feared chaos had built an empire out of control, and for a while, it looked unshakable. By the early 2000s, Tom Cruise wasn't just successful, he was untouchable. For 2 straight decades, he'd been the face of American cinema. His movies had grossed over $6 billion worldwide, and every studio in town wanted his name above the title. When Mission Impossible Desert 2000 opened to more than $500 million globally, It wasn't just a hit, it was a declaration. Cruise had mastered the impossible staying relevant, bankable, and beloved in an industry that replaced its stars every 5 years. At this point, he wasn't just a performer, he was an institution. Cruise was earning upwards of $20 million per film. But more importantly, he was producing them under his own company, Cruise Wagner Productions. That meant he wasn't just starring in blockbusters, he was building them, with Mission Impossible. He'd revived a dormant television property and turned it into one of the longest-running, most profitable action franchises in history. Hollywood executives described him as a studio within a studio. His collaborations were equally elite. 2 consecutive projects with Steven Spielberg, Minority Report 2002 and War of the Worlds 2005 positioned him at the intersection of art and commerce. Critics loved him, audiences trusted him, and directors called him a dream to work with. The Los Angeles Times once described him as the last movie star who still makes you buy a ticket for him. Culturally, Tom Cruise had become more than a celebrity. He was shorthand for an era. He represented precision, professionalism, and an old-school work ethic that bordered on myth. In the 90s and early 2000s, tabloids had little to gossip about because there simply wasn't much scandal to find. He was polite, media-trained, and relentlessly private. When other actors spiraled, Cruise smiled. When others fumbled interviews, he delivered sound bites like a pro to millions of fans. He wasn't just a movie star, he was proof that fame could still be pure. And yet, beneath the clean image, there was something almost mechanical about it. Publicists described him as perfect to the point of being unreal. His charm was precise, his manners rehearsed, his interviews symmetrical. Tom Cruise had mastered the art of appearing spontaneous while controlling every frame. But the system worked spectacularly. He was nominated for 3 Oscars, won 3 Golden Globes, and maintained one of the highest approval ratings in Hollywood. In 2003, Forbes listed him as the most powerful celebrity in the world. For audiences, Cruise was the embodiment of a very specific American dream discipline: confidence, self-made success. He didn't preach rebellion, he preached excellence. He was the kind of star you could root for without guilt hardworking, fearless, clean-cut, endlessly optimistic, to the world. Tom Cruise wasn't acting out characters, he was the character, the hero who always found a way to win. It was the perfect image, so perfect that no one noticed the cracks forming underneath. Success had always looked effortless for Tom Cruise. Too effortless. Every film hit, every smile perfect, every word calculated. But perfection breeds pressure, and when you spend decades mastering control, even the smallest crack looks catastrophic. That crack appeared quietly in 2004. After 14 years under Pat Kingsley, Hollywood's toughest publicist, Cruise fired her. In her place, he hired his sister, Leanne DeVette, a devoted member of the Church of Scientology. For years, his faith had lingered in the background. Now it began to take center stage. What was once a private belief was about to become a public mission. At the same time, his personal life was shifting. His marriage to Nicole Kidman had ended. Surrounded by rumors that Scientology had played a role, insiders whispered about surveillance, manipulation, and pressure on their children's stories never proven but impossible to ignore. To the public, Cruise still looked unshakable: the grin, the charisma, the discipline. But to Hollywood insiders, that smile had changed. It looked less like warmth and more like armor. Behind it was a man tightening his grip on everything around him. The image was still intact, but the balance had begun to tip. Soon, the man who had built an empire on control would lose it live on television. In 2005, the meltdown went global. Cruise's infamous appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show, where he leapt onto the couch declaring love for Katie Holmes, became instant pop culture history. Overnight, Hollywood's most controlled man became its biggest punchline. A month later, he clashed with Today Show host Matt Lauer, dismissing psychiatry as a pseudoscience and lecturing him on the history of psychiatry. It wasn't confidence, it was confrontation. The nation watched in disbelief as the world's most charming star turned into a zealot before their eyes. Then came the whispers that seemed ripped from a satire during a private jet flight. Cruise allegedly ordered the oxygen flow cut to a nearby seat after a dispute with a passenger dismissed officially as a technical issue, but symbolic of his tightening obsession with control. The backlash was swift. Paramount ended its 14-year partnership with Cruise Wagner Productions, with Viacom chairman Sumner Redstone calling Cruise's behavior unacceptable. Polls confirmed the damage his favorability fell from 58% to 35% in a single year. Supporters called him passionate, misunderstood. Critics saw delusion. The fall was total. Hollywood's most bankable man had become a liability proof that even perfection has a breaking point. After the chaos, Tom Cruise went silent. No press tours, no apologies, no breakdowns. For a man obsessed with control, silence was the apology. He quietly reached out to Brooke Shields, rehired veteran publicist Paul Block, and returned to serious drama with Valkyrie 2008. The film did fine, but the stigma lingered. To the public, he wasn't the actor, he was the meme. Then came Tropic Thunder, hidden behind prosthetics. Cruise's unrecognizable cameo as Leigh Grossman, a foul-mouthed studio boss, stunned audiences. It was funny, bizarre, and brilliantly self-aware. For the first time in years, people were laughing with him, not at him. Critics called it redemption through ridicule. Cruise hadn't asked for forgiveness, he'd rewritten the narrative by mocking his own image. He broke the tension and reclaimed control, yet the strategy had limits. He never confronted Scientology or his past comments. His silence wasn't humility, it was containment. Some admired the restraint, others saw denial. In Hollywood, contrition sells. But Cruise offered something different: endurance. He didn't apologize, he just outlasted the scandal. By the 2010s, Cruise had rebuilt himself as Hollywood's last true action star. Every Mission Impossible film pushed the limits, hanging off planes, scaling skyscrapers, transforming spectacle into redemption. When Top Gun Maverick hit $1.5 billion in 2022, he wasn't just back, he was a savior. But his personal life told another story. His devotion to Scientology remained absolute. He rarely appeared with family and reportedly hadn't seen his daughter Suri in years. Then came the 2008 leaked video, a private Scientology speech where Cruise, eyes blazing, declared, "When you're a Scientologist, you're the only one who can truly help. To followers, it was faith. To critics, it was indoctrination. Professionally invincible, personally isolated." Cruise became a paradox proof that fame can rebuild everything except intimacy. His discipline turned him into a legend, but also a fortress. In a world where stars tweet their confessions, Cruise chose silence and control, and somehow, it worked. His career survived not through forgiveness, but through performance. Yet the man behind the myth remains unknowable. The smile is back, but it's still armor. In the end, the rise and fall of Tom Cruise isn't just the story of one actor, it's the story of modern fame itself. A man who spent his life mastering control, only to learn that control can't buy connection. A legend who fell not because he failed at his craft, but because the world finally caught a glimpse of the person behind the perfection and didn't know what to make of him. He is both a symbol of discipline and a warning about devotion. He showed that Hollywood will forgive almost anything: arrogance, fanaticism, even scandal, as long as you keep delivering the spectacle. But what happens when the spectacle is the penance? Tom Cruise didn't apologize. He performed, and somehow, performance was enough. He rebuilt his empire, re-earned his respect, and proved that even in an era obsessed with exposure, mystery still sells. Yet the man behind the myth remains a question mark, a smile too precise to read, a life too rehearsed to reveal. Maybe that's the real paradox of Tom Cruise. The more he tried to prove his humanity through danger, the more superhuman he became. And in the process, we the audience got exactly what we asked for: entertainment without intimacy, perfection without truth. So perhaps the question isn't whether Tom Cruise was ever forgiven. It's whether we ever stopped needing him to be perfect. Because if Hollywood's ultimate control freak can fall, vanish, and return as its savior, what does that say about us, the people who keep watching,